Hello, friends. It's John Ross Bowie, from your television. And today I'm going to be reading Marvel Superhero Adventures, First Day of School, Part 2 of a story starring Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. And it begins, the first panel has a big Ultron and an even bigger Ultron looming, sort of towering over Spider-Man and Captain Marvel. And the big Ultron says,
"Nothing can stop Ultron now."
And Spider-Man says, "Why is there never an electromagnetic pulse handy to short-circuit evil robots?" Of course, it would probably trash my phone too, so... And Captain Marvel goes, "Talk about a dead zone." So Spider-Man asks her, "What are we going to do, Cap, if the Ultron twins get into the neighborhood?" And she interrupts him. "They won't. We'll keep them focused on us." Spider-Man says, "I was afraid you'd say that, but at least you said we instead of I." He turns back to the two robots. "You're finished, evil robot guys, because now we're working as a..." And Captain Marvel says, "What?" And he says, "Team. You were supposed to say team." Captain Marvel flies up, right up to the big Ultron's face and goes, "Let's see if giant Ultron can take..." And she's just about to punch him when he punches her. Slam! She falls to the ground, holding the fist, and Spider-Man says, "I guess it can." And Captain Marvel says, "This thing's tougher than it looks." Ultron cries,
"I will crush you both to dust."
Captain Marvel says, "This doesn't make sense." And Spider-Man says, "What, the evil talking robot or the bigger evil talking robot?" And Captain Marvel says, "All of it. Why would Ultron travel into orbit to build a robot out of satellites when he could build one on Earth?" Spider-Man answers, "Maybe it's because of all those antennas. It looks like they're from communication satellites, the kind that transmit Wi-Fi signals." And Captain Marvel asks, "So?" And Spider-Man says, "If Ultron's infected those satellites, he could upload himself to the internet." And Captain Marvel says, "And control every electronic device on Earth." Yikes. Spider-Man jumps into the air. "We have to keep him too distracted to do that. Take out his antennas before the world's overrun by evil cell phones." So Captain Marvel does just that. She reaches up off and takes a antenna off of his back and says, "No problem. There's one antenna down, and I know just what to do with it." And she throws it, crang, into the smaller Ultron. Spider-Man jumps up onto the big one and says, "Here comes number 2. And Ultron goes,
"What? You are becoming an annoyance."
And Spider-Man, who's grappling with the antenna and trying to take it off of Ultron, says, "That's because you don't know me yet. I can be much more annoying when you can't even reach me." And Giant Ultron says,
"Human fool, you fight with only one body. You forget that Ultron fights with many."
And Ultron shoots laser beams out of his eye, narrowly missing Spider-Man, who says, "Well, I didn't forget anything, but I did trick you into blasting your last dish antenna." So the dish antennas are destroyed. Little Ultron says,
I no longer feel the connection to the world's communications, to the world's technology. This is your fault."
Spider-Man says, "See? I told you I could be more annoying." Little Ultron says,
"You may have damaged my antennas, but the satellite's batteries are intact and filled with solar energy."
And the big giant Ultron has laser beams that come out of its eyes and come right at Captain Marvel, who says, "Spider-Man, get back. Let me absorb the blast. Get out of here." And Spider-Man's right behind her and says, "Not while there's danger or without you." And she says, "Anybody ever tell you that you have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility?" And he goes, "Once or twice." Big Ultron, still shooting lasers out of his eyes, says,
"I see you weaken. This will be over soon."
Captain Marvel says, "Ultron said his giant body is powered by solar batteries. Pouring so much power into his eye beams must be draining them." And the laser beams just kind of fizzle out like a light bulb that just dies out. And Spider-Man says, "He's out of power. You did it." And she's glowing pink at this point and says, "But it's too much energy. I can't contain it all." And little Ultron says,
"What a pity then that this body still has more than enough power."
His eyes start glowing.
"One final blast from my eye beam should finish."
Swap! Spider-Man shoots a web over his eyes. "Unless a little webbing stops you from firing." Ultron goes,
"Ugh, wretched insect, for this indignity I will..."
And Big Ultron suddenly falls to the floor as Spider-Man says, "Timber!" Little Ultron says,
Ah, you'll pay for that.
and Captain Marvel grabs Little Ultron like she's picking up a baby and says, "Don't count on it, Ultron. I might not be able to release the energy around people, but that doesn't mean I have to do it alone." And she begins flying up into space with the Little Ultron. "Did you know I used to be an Air Force pilot? We were always pushing ourselves higher, further, faster." And as she's flying up with Ultron and taking him into outer space, she says, "It reminds me of a phrase pilots use when the weather's clear, CAVU. It stands for Ceiling and Visibility Unlimited." And they go into outer space and there's a massive pink explosion. And Spider-Man's back down on the ground. He looks up and he just sees this big pink explosion in the sky and says, "Cap, how could anyone survive that? I just hope she's okay." And who comes floating back down to Earth but Captain Marvel? "Nice of you to worry, but I'm Earth's mightiest hero, remember?" Spider-Man is so overjoyed he gives her a big hug and says, "You're all right, and you're not all glowy anymore." And she goes, "And Ultron's gone. My joke about the electromagnetic pulse gave me an idea. When I released all that solar energy, it fried Ultron's circuits. It'll take him a long time to pull himself back together." And Spider-Man says, "Another day saved, thanks to Earth's mightiest hero." And as she takes the big dead shell of the big dead massive Ultron, she says, "Sure, but it still took a friendly neighborhood hero to remind me that even when you're saving the world, you can't stop looking out for the little guy. I better take this thing away so that it can be disposed of safely. See you around, Webhead. We make a pretty good..." And Spider-Man says, "What?" And Captain Marvel says, "Team. You were supposed to say team." And as she flies away with the big shell of the giant Ultron, Spider-Man says, "Man, Captain Marvel really is something else. 2 villains and 1 mighty team up in a single morning. Sure was more excitement than I expected on the first day of school. I'm late for school." And he starts frantically taking off his costume and putting it into his backpack. Flash said, "There's a delayed opening. Maybe I can still make it." And he's running down the halls. Come on, come on, come on. Almost there. And he gets to the classroom just as the teacher says, "Late again, Mr. Parker. On the first day of school. I hope you were doing something important. Go to the principal's office for a late pass and then we can discuss you joining class." And Peter Parker says, "Oh, typical Parker luck. Always bad." I'm John Ross Bowie. I'll see you soon.